Great. Thank you so much, Jose. Appreciate that introduction. And we're very excited to be showing you some of the features of our non-pavement assets as well as the parking lots module. Each of these modules is so large that we can really just touch on a few things and hope to show you some of the highlights and features. And we will basically kind of focus on more of a high level, and then when we get to where we want during the Q&A, maybe we can ask some more detailed questions, etc. Also, if you want more information based on what you see in today's webinar, we do offer live demos where we can kind of take a deeper dive with you and your team on what the modules offer. And if you have more specific questions, we can take all the time we need to answer those during a demo as well. So without further ado, we'll just kind of jump in, and I just want to confirm that everybody's able to see my web browser and the executive dashboard and StreetSaver.
We can hear you and see your screen perfectly. Thank you, Jason.
Excellent, excellent. All right. I'd hate to get started and then have something going on. So let's talk about StreetSaver. Obviously, StreetSaver is known for its pavement module in managing streets. And one of their goals has been to add additional asset modules so that typically siloed data that is separate can kind of be brought together for that network level analysis. And that means if there's additional work, say for ADA ramps needing to be replaced, et cetera, you could bring that together into some type of unified reporting. So you can get more accurate costs for your project planning. Well, in StreetSaver, we do have three asset modules currently available. The first is our traffic signs module that you see here on the left. You'll notice that when you do sign up for one of these modules, you get an additional tab here, so you can toggle back and forth between pavement and assets for your navigation. And in addition to traffic signs, we have curb ramps. They follow similar modules, as you can see, in terms of these larger groupings. And then we also have parking lots, and parking lots is a little bit different from these non-pavement assets. It's actually integrated into the pavement module, which we'll look at a little bit when we get there. So we're just going to kind of take a tour of traffic signs, curb ramps, and parking lots. And all of these modules, including parking lots, are available just as a standalone database if you wanted them separated out, for example, or if you were just wanting to use StreetSaver Plus for parking lots or traffic signs, but not pavement management. That is possible. Everything I'm going to show you today is more where you would add this to your existing pavement database. So let's kind of jump in here and take a look at traffic signs first. And we'll start at the very beginning with inventory. And typically, this is one of the big questions with these assets is what are we going to do? How are we going to get our inventory into StreetSaver, et cetera? And so I'm hoping to cover some of that with you, and you can see just how simple it is to get your inventory data into StreetSaver right away and to be able to use it. This is pretty standard grid, like similar to pavement where you would see your view sections. This is your view signs. Let's just open up the edit screen and take a look at some of the fields that are tracked. And there is documentation available for this for both these traffic signs and curb ramps, as well as parking lots, that kind of describe what these fields are and their significance, what their data types are, and ranges of values, et cetera, which is available when you sign up for this. And that really helps on the front end when you're looking at what information you want to have on hand to bring into StreetSaver, especially if you're starting a data collection effort, like you don't have any inventory currently, but you're going to be collecting data. Well, having some information ahead of time of how StreetSaver's sign module works would be really helpful in that planning, which we, of course, can assist with as well. Okay, so looking at the edit screen, we see first off, it's the same rules as far as green fields that you're familiar with in StreetSaver, where the green field is required. And the only required field to start a sign inventory is the sign ID, which makes it very simple to get started. And then you can flesh out some of these other attributes as you go. Now, some of these fields are more important than others. For example, to make use of the work module where you track your work and what gets done, and you can build a work history for what's been done on the sign, et cetera, you're going to need to have your sheeting type value. Here's a list of the standard sheeting types that come with the module, and you can add additional following if you use like a different naming convention, for example, or something like that. You can use your own sheeting types as well. And then you'd also need your install date. If we have sheeting type and install date, then we can start tracking work, and you can make use of that work module. So another field that's of importance is the MUTCD code, and that's over here on the right. And for this sign, you can see we have the R1-1 stop sign. This is important. If you have this value along with install date and sheeting type, then you can start using the budgeting module. And the reason why you need MUTCD is that's one of the ways that the decision tree is organized. It's organized by MUTCD and by sheeting type. So these three fields here, sheeting type, install date, and MUTCD, are important for those reasons to make full use of the module. In addition, down here on the bottom, actually one last detail here on MUTCD. So the software is going to ship with, like if you signed up, you're automatically going to have the FHWA MUTCD codes and images available to you. And so you can use those right off the bat. And like for example, here I have the stop sign, and you can actually click the set as image button, and it'll use that stock image of a stop sign, you know, for you, or you can attach an actual image of the real stop sign, you know, if you have that. So you can do both options there. In addition to these FHWA MUTCD codes, you do have the capacity or ability to bring in your own, like if your state uses a different set of codes, et cetera, or your local agency, you can add those in addition and have those available. So that's customizable for you. One last field that's of import, and this is going to be true for curb ramps as well, is you can define what management section from your pavement data the asset is associated with. And when you do that, that opens up all kinds of reporting possibilities for you know, unified reporting. Then we can bring together you know, that cost reporting like we talked about when you're doing your project planning. All the remaining fields are pretty self-explanatory. You can record the size, the material. This is a customizable list. Most of these lists are going to be customizable by you. Some of them are shared with the pavement side, like funding source and area ID. And then you can set the service zone for, you know, what particular type is this in a commercial district, industrial, residential. You do have some tabs here as well. You can record detailed information on your support type. And these are the standard, again, values, but these are all, this is customizable if you want to have your own naming conventions, which we'll see here in a minute how that would work. Of course, number of support, where is the order on the support, how high is it breakaway, number of signs, you know, how offset from the road, and a separate support comments that goes along with, you have comments for the sign as well. You also have customizable fields that can be named what you want and store any type of alphanumeric value that you need to if these stock fields or static fields in StreetSaver aren't covering everything you want. And you can attach multiple files and documents as well. So this kind of gives you an idea of the inventory and what fields are important. We'll review a couple of items in curb ramps, but for the most part, it's going to follow along similar lines. And now the question becomes, okay, that's great. I've got a good idea about the attributes that I can track for my traffic signs, but how do I get them into StreetSaver? Well, with the non-pavement assets, we have a very powerful tool called the Import Inventory tool. And this is going to be used for all the assets, non-pavement assets. And you can see right off the bat in step 1, where we select the import type, the 4 available file formats. These are very versatile. Obviously, you can have you know, an access database, a standard generic DBF file. You can use a spreadsheet from Excel, and also you can use a GIS shapefile. Now, the big difference between these is if you're using a shapefile, it's automatically going to bring in the GIS data. When you select the shapefile, it gives you a list of some of the requirements. You have to have all the files. They need to be named the same, you know, that sort of thing. Don't nest folders in your zip file. Just let them all be sitting right there in the main directory of the zip, that kind of stuff. But when you do use this shapefile, it automatically brings in the GIS data. If you're going to use one of these other formats, then you likely have some type of lat-long columns or something along those lines that are storing your coordinates, and you would select those for import in order to bring in the GIS data. GIS data can be brought in from any of the formats. It's just automated with the shapefile. So I'm going to jump over here. I'm going to select my shapefile, and as it said, it needs to be in a zip file. So now once I've got my import file set, then I see additional steps are opened up to me. First up here, we get to decide what we want to do. So, you know, regarding existing record options, do we want to skip existing records or do we want to update them? So this is a question, are we bringing in new data or are we adding additional information to the data? So one of the things we can do, and that's what makes this so powerful, is we can update. Okay, so, and there's some additional options here for if my source file has blank values, do I want to overwrite what's in StreetSaver with blank values from my import file? Typically, we don't want to do that, but you do have that option if you wanted to clear things out. The point is this can all be done in bulk. Now you'll notice there's no template here. We're not making you, you know, format your inventory according to a certain template because you're actually going to map the fields. So on the left here, I've got my import fields, which is an ID field, MUT/CD ID, support, and rec ID. Well, I can click View Data, and then that's going to load for me the data from that my shapefile and tell me what's in these fields. Okay, so I can see right off the bat my ID field over here on the left is useless. It's just a bunch of zeros. So really, rec ID is my ID field. So what I can do is come down here to rec ID, and I can just hit, I'm going to hit S to jump to my S's, and there's my sign ID, and I'm done there. So it's going to import rec ID for sign ID. Now, why this is important, anytime you're bringing data in, you need your sign ID mapped so that we can know, you know, what are we going to update. This is easy. It's a one-to-one import. You know, it's all unique values. What do we do when we're matching lists, though? Like, for example, with support. So if I go to support and I go to support type, let's jump down. There's support type. Notice with this field, we have an additional button. All right, so I'm going to come on here and I'm going to hit match data. And now I've got a new list. On the left is my support type values. There's quite a bit. So this is what the agency is using locally. But when we look in StreetSaver, all we've got are the stock ones. So we have an option here. We'd have to go and manually enter all of these unique values, or we can quickly add them by just hitting Add Local Lookup Values. If I hit this, this gives me a report and says, hey, we couldn't import the blank value because name is required and wood is already in here. So this takes me to my support type list, and it's saying this is what it looks like now. This is everything that's been brought in. Looks good. So I'm going to go back to my asset import. So now when I come in here, so here. So now I can just hit auto match, and it's got all of my lists here that I imported, and it's matched them for me except for my blank value because I don't have a blank value in here available. Okay, so I hit matching complete, and now we have a match. Okay, so I'm not going to import just because there's like 10,000 signs here, and I don't want to waste time with us looking at a progress bar. But all I would need to do here is import data. And the key thing that you're seeing here is this can be used to bring in new data, like brand new records. Anything that's new is automatically going to be brought in, or you can use it to bulk update your data after the fact, which is excellent. So you can update, let's say you get new information or updated sheeting type values or something like that, that can always be updated. Okay, so let's take a quick look at just some reporting features. Again, you can see the module's quite big. We don't have time to go through it all, so we're just going to highlight just a few things. With the non-payment assets, we have an asset management column or category here, and this is going to automatically be selected when you're coming from your assets navigation for you, and you see all of the stand or stock reports that you can build. So let's take a look at this one. So sign condition and inventory summary. This is going to tell us, this is a summary report, so it's going to give us high-level information. Here we can see if we've done any condition ratings, which on this particular one of my 97 or 9,800 signs, roughly, we've only got one with some post damage. But if you had multiple ratings done, then you can pull a summary report like this and see the percentage of signs in each category. And then we see a breakdown of our MUTCD sign categories and the percentage breakdown in numbers and counts for their groupings. Let me go ahead and make this a little bigger. So, and then we see we have some high-level information of average RSL. We have 0 remaining service life in our inventory currently, and we have an average age of over 15 years. So it gives you kind of a high level, and then it's telling us that some of our stuff is not being included because it's missing, say, a sheeting type or MUTCD value, for example, then we can't really get, or install date, then we can't really get age from that. So there's an example of one of the system ports. So in the sign module, one of the key features as well is that you can do additional type of rating for retroreflectivity. In retroreflectivity, it's pretty straightforward where you're going to create a record, like for example, with our sign ID 1, in 2016, we had a retroreflectivity reading and minimum was obtained, which is great. So if we go forward, so let's go, we're on sign 1000, say. Okay, and you can pick between assessment method or management method. So let's just say we did management method, and we did it based on expected sign life and minimum. Minimum was in. Okay, and that's all that it takes. Notice that we do have retroreflectivity import, so you can download the template and just dump in all of your data and bulk update or bulk import your retroreflectivity ratings as well. They don't have to be entered manually. So if we come back here to our assets and we go and we say we want to look at our sign condition and retroreflectivity. So this is going to spit out those 4 signs that we were just looking at, and you get some pertinent information for your signs. Let me pop this up big again. And you see the evaluation date, and the key, of course, the key information is whether minimum was obtained or not. So this is great for kind of getting a detail on what's needed as far as your retroreflectivity requirements, as far as what's got to be replaced. In addition to standard reports like this, we also have some graphs available. So if I come in here and just take a look at basic inventory, this is a standard just inventory pie chart, and you do have some options. So right now we're looking at our inventory by sheeting type and number of signs. So we have 534 prismatics. Like what we might be interested in is, what are our engineering grade type 1s? Because those will be fading fast. We might want to be able to see that. You can switch from sheeting type, and you can say, hey, I want to see it, by MUTCD family. So this is going to give you that breakdown as well. And these are, of course, are exportable for presentations or reports as an image or a PDF, so you can use it in your presentation, which is great. Now, there's quite a bit of GIS functionality for assets as well, and I'm going to kind of save that for when we go over the curb ramps here in a moment, and we'll definitely see some parallels between the traffic signs and the curb ramps, but most of the functionality we're looking at will apply to both. So while we're doing that, I'm going to pause here for a moment, and I believe Jose has a poll question for us. So I'm going to pass it to you, Jose.
I definitely do. Thank you so much, Jason. And folks, I know that we're reviewing multiple modules today. So the main purpose of this webinar is to kind of give a brief overview of those modules. If you do have any questions, feel free to submit them. I know we've received a few questions already, so that's great. We will be reviewing those. And most importantly, let me get the poll up while I'm discussing this. And most importantly, guys, if you guys are interested in a demo of the modules, any of these modules can be set up on your current database for a 30-day demo. So basically what we do is we turn it on for your database. You can get in there. You can play around with the module. If you have any questions regarding the module, you can email us. But everyone here, we are able to provide a 30-day demo. If you need a StreetSaver database in order for us to apply the demo, but you guys are more than welcome to go ahead and request that demo, and we can set it up on your database. But one of the poll's questions for today is, does your agency currently maintain non-pavement assets? And if so, which ones do you currently maintain? Really, guys, this is kind of a question for us to gauge what you guys are doing there in your own databases and your agency. So we like these poll questions. It gives us some more insight on what you guys are doing. So it looks like most of the folks are taking care of curb ramps, followed by traffic signs. A little bit of traffic lights in there as well. But guys, thank you so much. If you do have more questions, feel free to submit them in the chat box or the Q&A. We will be reviewing those for you guys. But again, thank you guys so much for joining us.
Great, thank you, Jose. Appreciate that. That's going to be really good information for us. One thing I'll add, in fact, I'll just show you here. I switched to my curb ramps database, and there is an additional screen in all of the assets. So if you do a demo and you start adding data and whatnot, we do have the delete curb ramp or delete curb ramps or traffic signs, depending on what module you're in, screen where you can actually clear out your data. Obviously, this is more of an admin level screen that you want to keep locked down for the primary person managing the data. But for your demos, there's no impact. Like if you want to get this enabled on your database for 30 days so you can play around, it can easily be cleaned up as well. So I wanted to highlight that. Okay, on our View Curb Ramps screen, again, we see the standard information, similar to what we saw in traffic signs. We do have, in addition, this is also available on our traffic signs module, but there is a curb ramp summary available. There's like where you can just get all the pertinent information, any ratings, work, needs projection, that sort of thing, and work history for what's been done. So that's a great feature. But let's jump in and take a look at some of these inventory items, attributes that are going to be a little bit different. So just a few things that pop out. The same thing applies for making use of the work module. You're going to want your install date if you have it. Typically, this is real difficult because when you're creating your inventory, you may not know what the install date is. And so that's where some institutional knowledge may come in to bear, where you can make the best guess on an average install date that can be used as a default value to start out. And then you can start putting in your work history as you have it, and things start tracking along those lines, and the service life and age really bear out more accurately with the latest work that's been done. Instead of sheeting type, we have ramp type. Here's the stock list. It's organized around the type and the material used, and that's how we're going to determine the expected service life for the curb ramp. One of the other big differences here is right on the curb ramp record, we have the attribute for whether or not it's ADA compliant. So you can say yes, no, unknown, exception, or other. And the benefit of having it here is when you're doing your inventory import, like we saw with the traffic signs, you have an ADA compliant value that you can set. This will become very important as we'll see as we work through some of the GIS reporting and other reports, because curb ramps, you really want to have the ability to start looking at, well, where are my pavement projects that may trigger the ADA compliance federal mandate, where I'm going to have to replace my curb ramp as well while I'm doing my paving project. So we'll take a look at that here in a minute, but that's definitely important. So rather than MUTCD, like in traffic signs, here we have service zone. So this is what area is the curb ramp servicing? Is it an industrial area, residential? This is somewhat customizable. You have these 5 options, but you can change these to a naming convention, that you prefer. Like, let's say this is on a facility, and I can come over and let's say we don't quite like that. Maybe you use a different name. Under table maintenance, this is where all your lookup lists are. So I can come in here to service zone and find facility. Let's say we wanted to be a little bit more specific because we want to treat these differently with how we make decisions. So maybe I'll change this to medical or education facility. So now when I come back, that drop-down list is going to be updated with my naming convention, your local naming convention. So that's how you can customize this. And then when you're looking at that in your decision tree for what kind of priority or work you want to do, then you can prioritize along those lines a little bit, the level of service you want a little bit better. So that's excellent. Okay, so let's take a look. Similar to traffic signs, you also want to have your your section defined if you can. And like here, we don't have one, but let's take a look at this guy. So here we have curb ramp 1, and we have it set to Chuleta Court. So, and similar, you can have an image, etc., which is great. Okay, so let's take a look at any other, there's one other unique field for curb ramps that's not in traffic signs, and that's the intersection ID. So if obviously most curb ramps are going to be at an intersection, not all of them, but you know, you're going to want, you may have it all divided up or organized along intersection ID. Well, you can import all your intersection IDs over here on the left using the import intersection ID screen. I have a couple in here. So like, let's say we're on Chuleta Court here. So I have that one entered in here, intersection 001. We're at Chuleta Court and via here. Now, you don't have to have the cross streets. You can just have an ID value as well, but StreetSaver lets you have cross streets if you have them. So then I can set that, which is great. And now I've got my intersection ID. So that's useful for reporting purposes, obviously, as well. Okay, let's take a look at some of the features around project planning and the unified reporting that we've been talking about. So first, we'll jump in and take a look at GIS reporting. And GIS reporting is going to bring together your pavement data and your curb ramp data. So right off the bat, you know, my pavement section data is loaded for me. Very quickly, in case you weren't aware, the StreetSavers just went through a very significant performance upgrade on its GIS. I hope you guys have been enjoying it if you've been using it. But the load times and performance is just greatly improved, which is very exciting. If you just want to look at asset data, you can hide your section data here with this checkbox down below. And we'll keep it up for now. And let me just show you how the asset GIS works. And this is going to be true for traffic signs as well. There is, when you have the asset modules added, you get an additional button over here for assets, which will be under the layers legend. You just mouse over and you get your options. So first we're going to load asset features. And this is the create and edit kind of form for our GIS features. So the assets are great because you can really build customizable features with built-in filtering, etc. So I'm going to select one that I have prepared here for the demo, which I've called curb ramp ADA compliance status. You can, you know, select between your assets and then the fields available for that asset. So like for curb ramps, you know, we have our ADA compliant, we have condition ratings, ramp type, work type, pending work or completed work, you know, placement. So like if we wanted to see where our north-facing signs were, for example, with our traffic signs, we can do that. Placement for curb ramps, you know, is it in the center of the road? Is it, you know, and like an island ramp, or is it, you know, left to the right, etc. So you have all kinds of options you can customize around these feature fields. You name it what you want, and then you can also apply filters. So in this case, I've applied ADA compliant equals no. And I can say I want my feature to be visible on the map when I load it. You can load multiple ramp or asset features, even, you know, across assets, so signs, curb ramps, etc. Do I want to include assets with no feature data? So basically what I can do is I can say, I want to look at my ADA compliance. Do I want to include the assets if they don't have an ADA compliant value? And if I do want to include them, then I can say what I want them to look like specifically here in the GIS styles. All of these feature fields have GIS styles available that you would do on the table maintenance screen where you customize the list, say what colors you want, etc. Well, let's go ahead and load this. So I've got this selected in my grid. I'm just going to say apply to GIS reporting. So now I see at a network level where all of my non-compliant ADA ramps are. Okay, well that's useful, but I want to get more specific because I want to dig down on some of my project planning. So let's see. I have a looking at the scenario treatments feature, and let's go to current funding levels. Okay. So this kind of gives me a little bit more idea, and I can come down here and let's say I'm doing a Cape Seal projects, and so I want to zero in on my Cape Seals, micro seal and Cape Seal here. So I do that, and then we were looking at that one curb ramp at Chulette, so let's take a look at that. It's down here, I believe. Okay, so it looks like we've got Chuletta Court is, we do have planning for a Cape Seal on Chuletta Court, and we can see that we also have a non-ADA compliant ramp on Chuletta Court. And of course, you can see this across your whole network where you're going to be doing Cape Seals and where you have these ADA ramps that are not compliant and will also have to be replaced. So this gives you kind of like a network level, like, okay, wow, so we've got quite a bit of smattering here. There's definitely some hot spots. And you can print, of course, you can take this map and you can print it for your presentation if you want to basically explain the situation where you're going to have a bunch of additional costs on these Cape Seal pavement projects. So that where you used to have siloed data, now you can take a look and see it together on one image, which is excellent. Of course, you can filter down to very specific, neighborhoods, et cetera. Like even, looking at, you might be doing just the south here, so you can take a look and know, okay, yeah, I've got a very long Cape Seal project I'm doing, and we need to know how much this is going to cost, right? So we can take a look at that. And I'll show you how to do that next. So this is, and you can also overlay traffic signs if you have that data in here as well, if you have any sign projects that you're going to be doing, and bring it all together in one map. So let's jump over to reports, and we'll take a look at the unified reporting. So of course, the curb ramp module has that same, very similar reports as far as what you can do. And just by the way, just a little tip, notice that my report looks a little different in this database. I have a theme applied. This is available here. It can add a little, color to your reports. The default is just the grayscale standard report, but you can pick all of these different themes as well, and that'll add a little bit of color. So here we see we're organizing the inventory along service zone, gives us account percentages, et cetera, area ID or condition. Down here, we get our average remaining service life of 7.3 years, and we have an average functional age of 37.7. So that's telling us how old our inventory is overall. So very good report. Let me make that a little bigger for you guys. Sorry, I keep forgetting to do that when we open these up. So that gives you a good snapshot. Now let's look at some unified reporting. Notice we have all of these needs reports. Some of these are going to be around curb ramp needs specifically, so I can run a needs projection just on my future curb ramp needs or sign needs, but some of them are going to be unified. And especially so we were looking at scenarios. So let's look at the scenarios, pavement alterations, and ADA compliance cost report. Now this is going to give us good information on our current reporting scenario. Okay, so This is basically telling us what our scenario budget was to maintain current levels, but it's focused in on pavement alterations. So this isn't just all your scenario treatments. This is looking for just those treatments that are going to trigger the federal mandate, for example, and also require the replacement of a non-compliant curb ramp. So you'll see those pop up here under the section. So the first one here, we have Canterbury Way, and that's got a curb ramp replacement that's going to be called for. So if we're going to elect to do this particular Cape Seal on this road, then we need to take into account the replacement cost in addition to the cost of the Cape Seal. So we're looking at $7,000 instead of just the $3,000. So if you're looking, like here we go. So here's our particular example that we were looking at, Chuleta Court. Similar thing. We have a Cape Seal called for in our scenario at just under $3,000, and we're also going to have a replacement of a curb ramp here for $4,000. And you can kind of see that going on here, even down on Cristo Rey Place. Similar cost issues. So this is great because it's telling you, in addition to the pavement project that you're looking at doing, you've got more costs that you need to account for. So if I jump down to the end of 2022, we get kind of a summary, and so here we have it's got the 3 ADA compliance cost replacement cost of $12,000. So we get that total of all of our Cape Seals and our thin overlays, all these pavement alterations that are going to trigger that mandate. You can additionally get your ADA compliance costs, which is excellent. And then, of course, at the bottom, I only have one other one, I think, that was going to trigger this in this particular report. So it bumps us up to $16,000. But this number obviously would grow dramatically if I was bringing in all of our non-compliant ADA ramps from our map. So this gives you your grand total. And that's really what you need. You could see how a report like this would be excellent in terms of helping you begin to craft a transition plan for that mandate, which is super helpful. Okay, so let's take a look. There's more for curb ramps, but we're getting low on time here, so I'm going to go ahead and go to our second poll question, and then we'll take a quick look at parking lots as well, and have some time for Q&A. So Jose, if I could pass it back to you.
Excellent. Thank you, Jason. Definitely. So yes, we do have another poll question for you. This is one of my favorite questions. Also, small fun fact, chuleta means T-bone steak in Spanish, so it's kind of interesting what they use to name these roads. But let me see here. You guys should be looking at that webinar poll question I have for you guys. Now, this is one of my favorite ones because it definitely helps us out as far as knowing what you guys want to see from us as far as future webinars. So we take a look at this. Kind of helps us decide on what to bring for you guys. We are receiving a few questions in there in our Q&A in our chat box, so feel free to keep submitting those. We will have a Q&A at the end, so we will review all of these questions for you guys. So if you do have any questions regarding this or anything StreetSaver related, just toss it in there and we'll get to it. Again, guys, if you are interested in any of these modules for your database, we are able to set up a free demo, a 30-day demo on your database for any of these modules. So if there's something you're interested in, let us know and we can set that up for you guys. I'll hand it back over to Jason if he's ready. But again, thank you guys so much for participating in that poll question and joining us for today's webinar.
Great, thank you, Jose. And yes, let's take a jump here into the parking lots module. And parking lots is interesting in that rather than it being separated out navigation-wise, it's more integrated with the pavement module, which is excellent because it means you can do all of the same analysis as far as, you can capture inspection data the same way using the ASTM standard. You can track your M&R the same way that you do with your roads with those treatments. And then you can do budget analysis as well based on the condition data that you've entered into the system. And that's very helpful in terms of planning budgets and projects for your parking lots. So with that in mind, let's take a look just at some of the differences around the parking lot module. And what you'll see is that we have some additional screens that show up in the StreetSaver UI, and we'll just highlight a couple fields that are important. So I'm here on, this is just a regular road, but I want to show you what happens here. What designates a section as a parking lot as opposed to a road is if you have a parking lot value. If I select a parking lot type value, it's going to change this into a management or a parking lot segment instead of a road segment. And it's going to make me pick a lot location instead of a street name. You'll notice right now it's street name. And it's also going to impact my functional class. So for example, let's see if I say an entrance truck route. So it's telling me that it's going to do all kinds of things here, changing this to a section, or excuse me, a parking lot. But once I do that, now it's done several things here. So now it's changed this to a lot location list instead of my street name. And then in addition, it's changed my functional class. And notice what it says here, functional class has changed and is disabled. It is tied to the parking lot type. So these are coupled together. And if I it switched it to arterial from residential, if I switch this to, say, a high utilization parking area, then it's going to switch it to residential. And that's the case. There's a mapping there, which we can provide more information on if you're interested in this and want a demo on it. So that's kind of what would happen, or that's the key difference here. So lot location is interesting because it's really a parallel between or with road name. So the same way street name or road name functions in the system, lot location does as well. So I'm going to cancel this. And then let's just take a look here at one of these new screens. So you notice we have a lot location screen and we have a street name screen. And that's so that they can function together. And we do have already have some lot locations defined, and they have GPS defined. Now you can see here we've got one that doesn't. So our Costco lot location doesn't have one. So let me jump in here. And this is our Map It screen. So you can kind of drill down and find the location that you want. And then all you have to do is get your polygon drawing tool. And this is the lot location, so we really don't care about like dimensions per se. We just want to make sure we get it all. So that's saved. Now if I come back, now I've got GPS for that as well. Okay, so once I have my lot location set up, you can create parking lots through the create section screen like we were looking at with the parking lot type, but really the better method is to create them from the GPS lot link screen. So let's take a look here and just drill down to the one we just did. Okay, so I can come in here and let's say I want to get rid of my lot location overlay so I can just see the parking lots. And I can say I want to create a new one. And I want the lot there. And this is going to be high utilization parking area. And now I'm going to draw it. And here, StreetSaver is going to use the area of your polygon. So definitely you want to be as thorough as you can so that your area is very accurate. And save that. And then it's going to load the create inspection screen for me. So I make this. Just going to put some default data in here, but you can use whatever naming convention you want. We're going to go ahead and create that. Notice it's got my length and width and area in here for me. Now it's doing length and width so that it arrives at the proper area based on my polygon. Obviously, the length and width doesn't work because it's not just a rectangle. Okay, and so now we've got our, not only do we have our new parking lot segment created that's part of this lot location, but also, we can come right up to it here, and now I can edit it, I can create inspections here, or I can create M&R, which is very great. If you're out creating your inventory, like if you're doing this on your iPad, you can go right into creating an inspection as well, so that you have a current condition on it. So that's excellent. Now, just to take a look at a couple other features of the parking lot module. Let me jump up here and look at the executive dashboard. So when you have the parking lot module, you also have the parking lot filter drop down appear. And you can toggle. Right now I'm showing all pavement, but I can switch to just get the dashboard for my parking lots. So that gives me my PCI and trends, and we only have history going back to 2020 on our lots in this database. Or I can go to streets only, and this gives me my network condition for my roads, and you can toggle back and forth. The same drop down is available on view sections. In view sections, though, same drop down that we said. I want to show also there's a filter item that you can use, and you can do this. Like if you're creating budget scenarios with selection criteria and you want to exclude your, parking lots and you just want it to run on your roads, you can apply a filter like this where parking lot equals false. So if I apply that, even though I'm telling it to show all pavement, it's also going to additionally filter out my parking lots on this particular grid. So you do have filtering capabilities, like when you're in mixed mode like this, to be able to exclude or include your parking lots in your analysis, which is very good. On GIS reporting, you have the ability, so basically it's going to show us, our lot locations along with our road data, right? So like here I've got current PCI condition, and where I have an inspection or treatment and I have PCI data, it's also showing me my my parking lot segments. So if we want to see the section info, load that as well. That's going to show us our PCI, which is excellent. Okay, and then this, of course, can be exported, and you can see your parking lots along with your road data. You can print it, etc. That's just a quick overview where we look at some of the features of the parking lot module. Again, you get that parking lot link screen so you can create your inventory right away along with GIS data, and draw your parking lots on the map, which is a great tool, and it's going to separate out for you the lot locations and the street names. So that kind of covers the overview of the parking lots. I know we're getting right down to the wire here, so I'm going to go ahead and pass this to Jose for our final poll question and our Q&A time. And hopefully we can cover some important information that you guys have questions about. Jose?
All right. Thank you, Jason. Yes. So we do have another poll question. I'm thinking we're going to save it for the next webinar since we are short on time. That's no problem. We do have a few questions I wanted to review with Jason, but guys, thank you so much for being with us for today's webinar here. We'll move on to the Q&A portion, and we do have a few questions here. It looks like the first one, can you go over location method more? Can we use this latitude, longitude data that can be used in GIS? So that question was sent to us when we were reviewing signs. So I believe if I understand this question correctly, and please correct me if I'm wrong, you were asking if we can view the data in GIS. So the answer to that would be yes. Is that correct, Jason?
I was muted there, sorry. Yes, you can bring your GIS data in using the inventory import tool that we looked at. And then as we saw there with curb ramps, the same is true for signs. You can display that information on the map. So
right.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Jason. So this one a little bit more specific is, should we add the assets layer to the existing shapefile and pavement GIS toolbox, or can we use a separate GIS shapefile so the assets would be imported as a separate database?
So yeah, I would, no, you don't need to add it to your streets layer or your base map. It's better, especially if you have your asset ID, so whether curb ramp ID or sign ID, to use the inventory import tool like I showed, where you can just point at the shapefile and automatically import all the GPS or GIS data for your asset that you're working on. Then, because it'll associate those coordinates, in your database with the asset that has that ID, then you can come in here like we're looking at on the screen right now, and you can pull them up, and they are independent. So I can hide my payment data and just look at my assets, or I can look at the payment data with it. Now, some folks do have an asset layer, like there's some databases will have like a signs layer or a curb ramps layer that's separate, but that's not part of the database. It's just displaying it on the map. You can't really interact with it or filter on it or change how it looks. It's very static. So it's much better to bring in your GIS data separately and work with it from the curb ramp module or the traffic sign module.
All right, on here, this is a great question. Does the tracking and reporting of the curb ramps impact the pavement condition index, the PCI, in any way?
No, it does not. So the purpose, rather, it's not going to interact in that way. The pavement condition index is going to be strictly based on your inspections and your treatment data. The curb ramp condition is going to be based on its ADA compliance, and it's if you have a rating on it that says it needs to be replaced, or your sign has retroreflectivity not obtained, that sort of thing. And then on the reporting side, we look at both. So the shared reporting we looked at for the scenarios pavement alterations report, that's not mixing the condition data at all. It's just bringing in, hey, you're doing this work, this cape seal, and over here it's got this curb ramp associated with it, and it is not compliant, and so we bring it together on the output side. But in terms of looking at your pavement sections, it's never going to impact your PCI.
All right, Jason, thank you so much. And just a couple questions left for us, guys. This is a good one as well. Are these, or will these assets be added in Mobile Radar?
That's a good question. We have had some discussions about the mobile, like a mobile app for collecting data and doing ratings and that sort of thing. The reality is there's several very good solutions that are on the market already. So we're still kind of circling around that and seeing whether or not that's is something worthwhile doing to kind of bridge the gap, so to speak, on that. That's why we have that inventory import tool, which is so flexible. So if you're, no matter what tool you're using to be out in the field collecting your inventory data, you can almost always export into a shapefile from your data collection. Like if you were using, say, the Esri mobile collection app, or any number of other solutions. We've seen consultants use GIS Cloud to create a data collection a template, and then they go out and collect all kinds of attributes, and then it exports to shapefile. So you can very easily get your data into StreetSaver. So that's kind of where we're at on that, but it's definitely been part of the discussion and on the radar.
All right, thank you, Jason. And one final question here, so this is a good one as well, is will StreetSaver hold any in-person workshops in the coming year? So this is a great question, guys. Currently, I do not believe we will be having an in-person as far as the user week for StreetSaver. And guys, if that does change, believe me, I will make sure everyone knows about it. If for whatever reason you're not a StreetSaver user and you want more information on StreetSaver or to receive our newsletter blast emails, send us an email and we can send you a link where you can sign up to our newsletter. So if there were to be any changes as far as user week goes for moving it from virtual to in-person, I will be the first one to let everyone know and send out emails letting folks know. But currently, I do not believe we will be having an in-person workshop this year. Hopefully next year, we'd love to see everybody in person. So that is something that we do want to do. But currently, I do believe we're going to do virtual for this year. But guys, looks like that's going to be all of our questions for today. I know we're up against the clock. So I would like to thank all of you for attending today. Please be on the lookout for that follow-up email with more information regarding upcoming training, workshops, and online courses as well. But with that being said, I hope everyone has a great week, and we hope to see you at our next webinar. So thank you guys so much for joining us today. Thank you, Jason.
Thank you, everybody.